Okay, so this is not the first time I've tried to film this video. So when I originally decided to start sharing my journey with pulmonary hypertension, of course at some point I was gonna have to talk about my first year with pulmonary hypertension and what I experienced and what I went through. And I figured, why not go ahead and just get that conversation over with as the new year is on its way in. Today is December the 30th, so we have 2 more days left of 2022, which honestly, thank God, because I am over it. But I mean, like I said, I did try to, or I did actually film this already, but I don't know, it just didn't feel right. It didn't sit right. I felt like I got caught up on things that I didn't need to be caught up on. So here I am doing it again. So I guess to get started, I'll just start with December of last year when I first got diagnosed. I've already posted a video on my Instagram and Facebook about how my symptoms came about and what led up to the coma. But today I think it'd be best to go from what happened after the coma until now. So this time last year in December of 2021, I was asleep. I was diagnosed on December 2nd, and by December 9th, my heart had gave out and was failing, and my family was being told that I would need either a heart and a lung transplant or something like that. And I had been informed that I was going to be placed on ECMO, and I'd be intubated and put to sleep, and I didn't know for how long, but I needed to be stabilized. So that's what led to me being in the medically induced coma, I guess you could say, from December 9th all the way to, I want to say like January 30th or 31st. I really don't know the exact date that I woke up, because all that I remember is there were moments where I was definitely fighting sedation and waking myself up while I was still intubated, which was not good. And there were moments where they would try to bring me out of it, but like I wasn't stable enough, so they'd have to put me back under. So I was officially woken up somewhere between January 30th to February 1st. Don't know which day, doesn't really matter. All I know is that I was in coma for about 8 weeks-ish. So when I first woke up, I didn't have control over any of my symptoms. Or what I will say before I get into what happened after I woke up is that my journey with pulmonary hypertension is not, it shouldn't be looked at the same for anybody else's journey. Is the symptoms and things that happens to your body pretty much the same? Yeah. But how it comes about and what happens after your diagnosis, I think that my journey has been really different. One being, I'm really young. I was diagnosed at 31, and that's still a very young age. And to get that diagnosis and be told that, yes, you're still young, but you can't carry any of your own children, and you need to lead a more sedentary lifestyle, which, I mean, I can still be active. I still work out and all those things because like I have to, but I shouldn't be doing things like playing professional sports, which I wasn't going to anyways, or skiing or snowboarding, things like that. Like I really need to pay attention to my body, my lungs, my heart, and yeah. But I think what makes my journey a little bit different from others when they're diagnosed is that my doctor was overlooking my symptoms. And by the time I got to my current doctor, I started falling apart. Those are his words. Um, so even though I got the medication that was making me feel better, my heart was still at its last leg, and that's when they put me on ECMO because I was having complete cardiac failure. Like my heart was so tired from working so hard, trying to pump oxygen to the various parts of my body that needed it. So after I woke up and was conscious, more conscious of the things around me, I was very quickly aware that I had no control over any of my abilities. The most that I could do was like kind of look around and like kind of move my head, but I had literally no strength. I do remember that I was still moving my fingers enough to where people could tell that like I wanted them to hold my hand, because physical touch was, I mean, looking back on it now, I can realize that physical touch was so important to me, and I needed it in order to, really know that I was here. Because while I was in the coma, like I was conscious of like, oh, I'm still sleeping. They told me that they were going to put me to sleep, and I know that I'm still sleeping, and I just want to wake up. And so when I finally did, I really just wanted physical connection with anybody that was near me, whether it was a nurse, family member, friend. I needed someone to hold my hand. So that was one of the abilities that I still kept. So if somebody like grabbed my hand, I could squeeze it. Even though I could see around me, my vision was still kind of weird. Like I couldn't really see anything out of this peripheral vision. Like it just didn't work. So if anybody came in the room from this side, I'd either need them to go in front of me or stand on this side of me. I, of course, was in the bed for so long, so like I lost all my muscles and like my legs and stuff, so that just was not moving. I couldn't flex my toes or lift my feet like that. I thought I was, but nothing was really happening. They didn't want me to get foot drops, so I had to wear these boots that held my feet straight up to keep them like flexed and to recognize, hey, this is the way we're supposed to go. We're not supposed to do this, I couldn't talk. I had an trach, and they put that in after taking out the intubation to make sure that like I was still breathing and like getting oxygen and all of that. I couldn't eat or drink. It was the hardest week of my life not being able to have freaking water. And I could barely move my arms. I had no strength. I had asked my mom if I could well, I didn't really ask her because I couldn't talk, but somehow she knew that I wanted to send out a text message sending my love to my now ex-husband. And I just remember trying to hold her phone and text, and it was so heavy, and it just felt like I was like trying to hold up like a freaking cement block or something, and I was making absolutely no sense in the text that I was trying to type. What I thought I was typing, I love you, and words weren't there. I couldn't do it. I couldn't write what I needed. I couldn't even like hold myself up in bed. I had like no core strength. They would prop the bed up during the day, like not all the way up, but kind of like slanted like this, to where like I could like see around me and like communicate with my eyes to nurses or my mom. And like if I even fell to the side, like I couldn't pick myself up. Like I would just be leaning until somebody noticed I was leaning and then put me back in the sitter. I remember feeling so sad that, I had been so grateful for so long for all of my abilities and everything. And I would always thank God, like, thank you for allowing me to be able to walk today, to see today, to have strength today. And it was like everything was just taken away from me like that. Like I woke up and I could do absolutely nothing. And I just remember just feeling really sad about my condition at the time. I'm not sad now, in particular in the same way that I was then, but I'm just sad remembering how I felt and knowing where I am now. If I could have just told myself, like, girl, it's okay, you're so strong, it's not gonna be like this for long, you got this. But anyways, yeah, I was really sad, and then some days I was really angry. About, I don't know, somewhere between 5 days and a full week, I finally got my swallow test, to where I tried chewing on graham cracker, Jello, water, just different things that the speech therapist had to do with me in order to make sure that if I did start having food again or liquids of some sort, I would be able to swallow it and my esophagus would be working correctly, because like I said, I'd been intubated and I had a trach. Also, she had worked with me to get me a voice box so that I could cap off my trach during the day and like have actual conversations with others. And I remember my voice being really, really weak in the beginning. One of the first conversations that I got to have was calling my then husband on his birthday to tell him happy birthday, and he didn't even know it was me, because nobody, like I hadn't spoken in like over 2 months. And so yeah, that was really nice. I also remember during that time, while I was just waiting to have like a drink of ice water or apple juice, oh my gosh, I was so thirsty. I did have some really cool nurses that may or may not have snuck me some sips of things. And also I had moments where I was really bad. I had a lot of pain in my feet and legs, which I'll talk about in a minute. But I remember secretly opening up one of the ice bags and trying to eat the ice. So that was not good, and I shouldn't have did that, but I did it, and it's okay because I ended up okay. But yeah, so when they put me on ECMO, they had to, I don't know, have tubes or something going through the arteries from my groin. And since they were trying to save my life, the doctors had already informed my family that there was a chance I'd get nerve damage in my right leg, which I did, but it's better. So when I woke up, my right leg just hurt so bad. My knee felt like it was just shattered into a billion pieces. My foot, like even for someone to like barely touch it or like graze it with anything, it hurt so bad. It was like the nerves in my right leg from the knee down were just pissed off. I would ask the nurses to either massage my knee with ice. Everyone had to be really careful with moving my right leg. It was so painful. I also couldn't bend my legs, which I didn't have the strength to anyway, so it's not like I was like gonna just get up out the bed and start walking. But like if I was being moved or like rolled or anything like that, like they had to be really careful, not only with that foot, but like with my legs in general, because my knees just hurt so bad, and they had to like they were stuck at a constant plane like this, to where like they're not perfectly straight, but they're not bent either, so they're like this, and that's where they're comfortable. If they straightened out too much, it hurt. If it bent too much, it hurt. So my mom was with me the first week when I woke up. 'Cause apparently her and my then husband had been trading off weeks, or 10 days at a time. I don't know, something like that. But she was there when I first woke up, and I was so grateful because she was so helpful. And it just felt really comforting seeing somebody that I knew. And it was just great. She was so positive, and that helped me be more positive because I was so sad and so mad, and I was like, why is this happening to me? I'm so young. Okay, camera died, but we're back. All right, so my mom was there with me when I first woke up, and it was really helpful. Like I said, I couldn't speak, and it was literally like she knew exactly what I needed to know, have, felt. Like she was, like we were on one brainwave. But oh my gosh, I thank God so much for her, and I have such a greater sense of respect for my mom, and our relationship is a lot closer, I would think, now. And it's really sad to say that that was something that brought us closer, but I'm really glad that it happened because of that. But yeah, so she was there that first week, and she was awesome, and she always knew the question that I had in my head. She also wrote me like little note cards for the times when she wasn't there in the room with me. I could hold up a note to my nurse asking, call this person, or can I have whatever, I need an ice pack for my knee, or I need a patch for my eyes, because they had to put like these like gel things over my eyes to like, oh gosh, I was all kinds of broken up, okay? But yeah, she made those note cards. She also made these beautiful poster boards of like pictures of me throughout my life, so that like my nurses could know me as a person and like what was important to me. So when they walked in, when they walked into my room, they didn't just see me like laying on a bed, unable to do anything for myself, but they also saw these pictures that told a story of the person that I was. That was really sweet. My mom traded off with my husband, I want to say about a week after I woke up. He came into town. By that point, they had moved me from the ICU to a regular hospital floor, where I'd still be monitored by the pulmonary specialist, but I didn't require as much attention. I don't think I was using oxygen as much when I transferred. I think I was still on oxygen, but I didn't need it the way that I needed it before I went to sleep. That's for sure. Once I got down there, they had already been like practicing like transferring me in slings to the chair so I could work on my core strength to like start sitting up on my own. You guys, after waking up from a coma, if you're like asleep for so long, it literally felt like I was a baby learning how to live life again. Like I had to learn how to sit up on my own, to learn how to like use my arms and use my fine motor skills. I had to practice wiggling my toes and moving my feet. Eventually I was able to kind of scoop my legs side to side on the bed, but I still had no strength to like stand straight up, and also it was very painful, so we didn't try that often. There was one day where I was so determined to like not use a bedpan, and I wanted to use a bedside commode, and they had to like put me in the same sling that they would use to put me on like the chair during the day. They would use that to put me to the bedside commode, and it was so difficult. And then I remembered believing that, okay, if my husband just stands in front of me and wraps his arms around me, we can like stand up, pivot, and go straight to the bed. that didn't work. And it's not one of my fondest memories. But I knew that I was ready to start moving. I stayed on that floor for about 2 weeks until we got transferred back to Lubbock. So that's all while I was in Dallas. And my husband stayed with me those 2 weeks, and then my mom and brother were going to step in so that he could get some rest after I got transferred back to Lubbock. We were supposed to come home on a Thursday evening, but they had taken me off the main machine that administers my Velletri and put me on my small pump for my Velletri, and about an hour into our drive, my pump started to malfunction. So I switched over to the other one, and it was fine because I have 2 at a time, but we didn't want to risk being on the road and being stuck somewhere and then that pump also malfunctioned. So we turned around, came back to Dallas, checked into the ER. The next morning, the doctors that I had came in and checked on me, and then I got set to go back home that evening. What happens next is another part, I believe, in my pulmonary journey that might be a little bit different from others. I talked to my doctor about this and his experience over the years of how this might affect couples and specifically marriages. And he explained it in 2 different ways, you know, how people can be affected. But I think mine is special. So that Friday evening, we are traveling back to Lubbock. I was transported via ambulance. And once we got there, they checked me back into the ICU at my hospital here. And on the way back, I had a not so great conversation with my then husband. And I eventually saw him again, maybe 2 days after I got back. And then I didn't see him again while I was in the hospital after that. I don't bring that up to go into any specific details, only to say that as I'm reviewing this first year with pulmonary hypertension, that's something that's really important for me to mention because it does affect my story and it is a part of my story. Once that was kind of set that he would not be visiting me while I was in the hospital, I shifted my focus into my recovery and my health, because that was literally the only thing I could focus on in the moment. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't take care of myself. I was still having trouble like just holding things in my hands. Like I could barely even feed myself. It was hard. It was rough. So I put all my focus into that. Once I got back to Lubbock, I received so much support, love, and care that like it was okay, you know, that my then husband could go take care of things that he needed to take care of for himself, because I did have other people stepping in to help care for me while he was getting cared for. And it also brought back people into my life that I hadn't seen in a really long time, so that was really nice. And my mom was on a rotation, was staying with me in the evening so that I wouldn't be alone. Whenever I needed her to get rest or like have a breakaway, my friends would come stay with me. My church family would come stay with me. Coworkers would come visit me. I felt really loved and supported, and that was really important for me to keep a positive mindset and keep moving forward to get better, because it was also hard. It was hard waking up to my situation. It was hard accepting that my husband was not going to be there while I was recovering. It was hard going through my recovery. It was just a hard process. So I was in the hospital back here in Lubbock for maybe about 2.5 to 3 weeks, and then they transferred me to a rehabilitation center. There I worked more on physical therapy and occupational therapy. I didn't need speech therapy at that time because my doctor had already taken out my trach, and I was eating and swallowing well, speaking well, breathing well. I didn't have really any complications with my trach healing. I did eventually get like a keloid on my spot, but since then I've been working with like moving it around, making sure that it didn't sear in one place, and using oil to like rub the keloid down. So I didn't need speech therapy. They did have me in a wheelchair when I first got there because I wasn't walking. But I need to rewind. After I decided that I needed to focus on my health and my recovery, and not factors outside of the hospital that I had no control over, I also decided that I no longer wanted to use a bedpan. So I told my nurses, take it out of the room. I don't need it here. I don't want it here. Whenever I need to use the restroom, I need a bedside commode, and we're gonna work on me starting to stand up and move over. So it started with 2 nurses at a time, one in front, one to the side, helping guide me to where I could like stand straight up and then kind of pivot and sit down to take care of business. And then it got to me only needing 1 nurse to like hold me up, and then I kind of do a shuffle to sit down and take care of business. And I'm so glad that I made that decision to like continue doing that, because like I said, when I was in Dallas, I was tired of the bedpan, and that situation didn't go well, and honestly it wasn't handled well. But here in Lubbock, I made that decision, and I had good people around me that supported that, and we made it happen. So while I was in the hospital after being transferred back from Dallas, I had made the decision that I was going to start getting up. Yeah, it was still very painful standing up and like sitting somewhere. Like my legs had to constantly be elevated because like the blood rushed down. It was just so painful. So that was something that I had been working on in the hospital as soon as I got back to Lubbock. So once I got to my rehab center and I was using a wheelchair, I was used to standing up, pivoting and sitting on and then sitting down. And then I had my arm strength to where I could roll my own wheelchair, put up my leg rest so that at least my right leg could be elevated, because my left leg was getting a little bit more comfortable being down. The blood rush still kind of hurt, but not nearly as bad as my right leg. And I started wheeling myself to the bathroom to like grab onto a pole, stand up, pivot, sit down, and using an actual toilet. Oh my gosh. When I first saw the first time I was able to wash my hands, the first time I was able to look at the mirror, the first time I was able to just, all these first were just amazing. Oh my gosh. The first time I was able to brush my teeth. I also didn't mention when I had first woke up, my hands and my feet were like really scaly, and they had like a lot of really dead skin. And like I was getting regular bed baths and all that, but I don't know if maybe it was all the medications being pumped in or like just being still for so long, but it was really gross. So being able to actually wash my hands each day, and then eventually being able to take an actual shower where I could like scrub myself, it felt so good. And it was so helpful getting all that dead skin off of me. It was so gross, so gross. But yeah, so in rehab, I was using the wheelchair. I was gaining back my independence. I got to a point to where I could just use my walker to go from my bed to the bathroom, to use the restroom, or take a shower, I could shower on my own. And this was all maybe a month and a half after I had woken up. But I was still really weak and I couldn't walk for long. So it was easy to get from like the bed to the bathroom because it was like right there. But whenever I do like my physical therapy during the day, I would need my wheelchair behind me so that I could like have something to sit down and take a break on every literal like 30 seconds to a minute. Also, my heart rate at the time stayed at a resting rate at about 120. So it was pretty high all the time. And so also doing physical therapy and occupational therapy, we had to monitor my heart rate. They didn't have me connected to any machines or anything, which thank goodness, because I was so tired of having hospital stickers and machines and beepings. So we just monitored my heart rate with my Apple Watch. I was in rehab from the beginning of March till about the end. After that, I went home to my mom's and continued outpatient therapy. I think I had about a 2-week break before I had to start outpatient therapy. So during that 2 weeks, I got adjusted to my mom's home. We set up the room to where it was easy for me to kind of navigate around. And we also set up a little desk area because eventually I would start working again. And I was going to be working from home. I was so grateful that my job was so flexible with me as I went through my recovery process. I start back at work in person full time starting this coming month. So I've had a year to since I woke up, I've had like 10 months of just like recovering, working on stamina, energy, pain levels, routine, all of that. And so, yeah. So, like I said, we set up the room to where I could easily navigate it and have like a workspace for when I did get back started with work. That didn't happen till like end of April. So, in those couple of weeks before I started outpatient therapy, I got adjusted to that routine. And I also had a marital counseling session to hopefully come to an agreement of moving forward, working through things, or, just be on the same page about whatever was going to happen. It didn't go well. And then I started outpatient therapy, and I'd always been told that physical therapy is so hard and it's painful and like all this stuff. And like, I'm not going to say it was easy or a walk in the park. While I was an inpatient, we did 3 hours a day. And I know for the majority of my days, I would be asleep. Like so much to where like I lost weight because I was like missing lunches and dinners, because as soon as my therapies ended for the day, I was back in the bed and I was so tired. I was exhausted. Back when I was in the hospital, they had PT would like get me out of bed after breakfast in the morning and put me in the armchair so that I could like be engaging my core all day. And I refused to get back into my bed until it was time to go to bed at night. But once I got to rehab, it was like, all right, I've been out of this chair 3 hours this day, and I've been really working my butt off to walk, to stand, to put some pressure on the leg that had the nerve damage, because I was told that was the only way it was going to get better. And so I was exhausted. And then once I started outpatient PT and OT, that was like I said, it wasn't like hard in the way that I thought it was going to be, but it was hard enough to where like I felt like I had a personal trainer like 3 hours, 6 hours out of the week. They were working my butt off. So yeah, that started at the end of April. I started back at my job and I started seeing patients or clients virtually um, from my home office. And we made an agreement to have me do virtual therapy or work from home through the end of September. So I did that throughout April. In May, um, I decided to file for divorce, which was also a really tough decision because it's not necessarily something that I wanted. Um, I was doing a lot better. Um, I wasn't great by any means. I was still doing the granny shuffle, and my body was still having its own reactions to things because I didn't really know how to function still. And it was still hard, like keeping a good appetite. But yeah, so in May, I was more, I guess, ready to deal with like emotional things as well. And so that's when I started coping with the fact that life was really going to be changing. I had literally woken up to a whole new life. So filed in May. Um, and also in May, I traveled, which was scary because I had to manage medications traveling. Um, and I was still getting used to this. But I'm so glad that I was able to do it because it was so helpful in my recovery. I visited family in California who had visited me while I was in the hospital. I visited my close friends in Dallas, and it helped me it helped me have like another jump start to continue working hard because life didn't end. It was still going on, and I needed to tell myself I still had things to look forward to, even though I had been going through the situation that I'd woken up to, and now I'm dealing with this other really life altering decision. Um, so that was helpful. I worked from home throughout the summer. Um, the divorce was finalized in July. Um, and my closest friends and family took me on a trip, and we had a divorce party. Um, and I am incredibly grateful for that because I was able to, feel love and support. Not so much to be like against someone else, but to say like, it's gonna be okay. And even if this wasn't what I wanted, I am still loved. I can still make connections. I still have people around me who care for me. It was, it, I mean, I lived, you know. If I survived that coma and darn near needing a double transplant, I was going to also survive this life change. So I was incredibly grateful for that trip. Um, in August, I started trying to go into the office physically about maybe 1 hour out of the week, at least for staff meetings, because they started being held in person and not over Zoom again. And I didn't want to miss out on that connection with staff members because like I wasn't there and I hadn't been there because I was asleep for 2 months and then I was working from home. So I started doing that, and that also helped with routine. I also kept a routine with going to my church family's daughter's basketball games, and I got back into Bible study, and I had been going to church regularly. And I started just creating routines that built connections with others, helped me be around community and support, helped me focus on my recovery needs, and also just got me out of the bed so that I could start, moving, like keep moving my body. Throughout all of that, I was still in outpatient physical therapy and occupational therapy as well. Um, let's see. So I was supposed to return in office at the end of September, but I really wasn't ready. Energy wise, stamina wise, and emotionally, I I was not ready. I still am having flashbacks, and my trauma was more heightened back then. So I just wasn't ready, and so we extended it through the end of December, just this month. But I still tried to come into office at least every Tuesday for those staff meetings. I stopped outpatient in September. I also moved into my own place in September because I was going to need to gain my independence back. And I got a new puppy in October with the thoughts that this puppy could be trained to be a service dog. Ain't gonna happen. But she has been helpful with keeping me physically active, which is so necessary since I haven't been in physical therapy since September. Moving into my own place really helped with building my confidence in myself that I could take care of myself. I did have maybe 2 times where I had gotten sick and I had to go to the hospital right before I moved into my place. So I know that my family was kind of worried about me and wondering if it was the right time for me to have so much independence, but it truly has been fine. And I think that it was definitely necessary given the fact that I had to get back to a life, or I had to trust myself that I could get back to a life to where I didn't have to depend on doctors, nurses, family, friends to like take care of me. Like I refused, and I know the people around me refused to see me in that state forever. Like, no, we can do better than that. And what else? So let's see. Birthday came in October, and that was amazing. Let's see, November had my first holiday, and that was totally fine. And then December, we just celebrated Christmas, and that was awesome too. Started some new traditions. I had heard so many times that people were like, those first couple of holidays after you get divorced, like it's so hard because you're so used to these things. And I think I had already grieved that back in May when I filed, because those were things that I really cherished during the holidays. Like I loved the family game nights, things we had planned last year that we didn't get to do because like I was asleep, or at least I didn't get to do it. But I think I had already grieved a lot of those things. And so once the holidays came around, I was more open to like new traditions. Also moving into my own place was another step forward in coping with my divorce as well, because it was another level of independence coming into my own. The home that I owned before was sold while I was still in the hospital, and I never got the chance to return to it. So the last time that I was there was when I first went into the ER and got my diagnosis the following days. And I never saw it again. Over the summer, I did drive past it one day just to like say my goodbyes, see it one last time, and like be done. And I think that was really healing for me. And since I have finished physical therapy and moved into my townhome and been using the stairs so much, because there are stairs here, it's really been helpful in like moving my legs. My knees now bend fine. My nerve damage in my right leg is like literally at the tips of my toes, but I can wiggle them now. I can move them up and down. Both feet, I kind of struggled with like picking them up this way. Like, you know how like you can rock on your feet? They just did not bend up, but now they can. I don't have that same pain in my knees. Sometimes when I'm laying a certain way, I feel uncomfortable, but I don't know if that's from old age or from side effects from laying down so long in the coma. My digestive system is a lot more on track. I have gained back healthy weight. I had lost a lot of hair first coming out of the coma. I had like a bald spot in the back from like laying for so long. And then after that, I think my body was like having like the side effects from like the trauma it went through. And so I was losing a lot of hair too. Like there were times where I would be like doing my PTOT on like a mat or something, and I'd get up and I'd have like a bunch of hair just laying there. Really similar to like how I've seen chemo patients like losing their hair. Like it literally would just like fall out, sometimes in chunks, sometimes in strands, but I lost a lot of hair. Now all of that is growing back. I do have like a spot back here where it's maybe about this long compared to like the rest of my hair, but since it has grown back so much, you can't tell where that is unless I point it out. And all of this part has come back. So hair's doing good. My skin has gotten better. I think we forget that skin is like our biggest organ. And so it was a struggle. I had, like I said, I had so much dead skin, but I also was like developing these rashes, getting used to being up. And I don't think it was necessarily acne, but like just like, it just wasn't good. So that's gotten better. Even though I didn't need speech therapy or anything like that, and I was swallowing fine, I did notice that I needed to have a drink of something like water or something whenever I was eating to like wash everything down and kind of help it move. Now I don't necessarily have to do that. And what else has been an update in this past year? I mean, like I said, my first year with pulmonary hypertension is not the same as maybe a typical story you would hear. A lot of similar symptoms, except my body fell apart and then I had to relearn everything all over again. And I'm really young. And at the same time that I was dealing with that, I also had to deal with letting go of a lifestyle that I had become used to and being accepting of my new lifestyle and new opportunities ahead of me. So yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. Oh, what I will say, another gratitude that I had for the divorce party in July, something that had become a tradition for me and my family was that we would take trips each July to like the river or something, or camping. And it broke my heart that I wouldn't be doing that anymore. But for the girls' trip that we had, we went and floated the river in New Braunfels, and that was really nice, and it filled my cup and helped me start creating new memories with July and summertime. And I think that that was something that I really needed for healing because I had so much to grieve. And it was really sad. So yeah, that's my year in review. Spent the first month or two-ish in a bed, not moving. Had to relearn how to walk, talk, write, pick up things, eat, drink, get my eyes back in focus, stretch, get back to work, which was a lot to take on because like, what just happened to me and now I just keep living. Reconnecting with friends that I hadn't seen with years, building closer and stronger bonds to the people that have always been there for me, building even closer bonds with people that I wouldn't let get close to me before, and accepting that life was going to be different. Not only because I had this illness, but because I am in a completely different place than I was a year ago. And that's not just because I'm awake. Like, yeah. Lots of tears reflecting over this past year, but also a lot of gratitude and so many things that I look forward to now, because I see how strong I really am physically, mentally, and emotionally, spiritually. Oh my gosh, I've never been so close to God. And I think part of it was because I met God, but also another part of it is because like I just know how loved I truly am, and I see that in the people that I was surrounded by. And I don't think that was just out of nowhere, you know. I like to think people love me because like I'm a good person, but also I like to think people love me because God has specifically placed them in my life for that. So my connection to my higher power is so important to me now in a way that is so different from what it used to be. Man, what else am I forgetting from this year? So, yeah, I can say it again, my story might be a little bit different from other people who deal with this diagnosis, but that's only because of the extra stuff I had to deal with too. However, what I hope is a takeaway from me sharing about my first year with pulmonary hypertension is that no matter what happens or what you go through or have to accept with this diagnosis, life is not going to end. If by chance you have any type of fighting spirit and you make it through whatever that first little challenge is, the rest of the things that come your way are going to be like a cakewalk. This diagnosis does not stop you from being able to live a healthy, normal, functioning life. I won't lie and say that I don't have certain insecurities about this diagnosis, because I literally carry baggage that's connected to me via central line. But those insecurities, they're just all in me. And what I've come to recognize is the people around me, like that's not gonna scare them or like push them away. And more importantly, I bring that up because now being single, there's this open door to have the possibility of meeting somebody new. And I know that whoever this person may be that I might, if I ever feel like it, date in the future, they're not going to be worried about this baggage. They're just going to want to get to know me. So, yeah. Yes, you have to accept life changes. Like if you were wanting to carry children, it might not happen if you haven't already done so. But there are still options for adoption, and there's still options for surrogacy. And there's options still to be the cool aunt, which the more I find acceptance in this, the more I'm kind of thinking being the cool aunt might be fun. But there's also options to still find love. I am still in therapy, and I do think that anyone with this diagnosis, no matter what you go through, therapy is so helpful with finding that acceptance and continuing to have self-love and self-compassion and continuing to look forward to the future. But this illness doesn't stop you from doing anything. Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, maybe professional sports, like stuff like that. But how many of us are really going to be doing that? Not many, you know. So I hope that this video was informative. helpful, hopeful, and relatable. You know, if there's any part of my story that you can pull from, I just hope the biggest part is that anyone with this diagnosis just realizes that you are stronger than this illness. And there's always an opportunity for continued life. So, yeah, I'm gonna go because that was a lot to unpack. But thank you for watching, and if you'd like to see other videos about pulmonary hypertension, I already have 2 uploaded to my channel if you'd like to like and subscribe. And if there are specific questions or videos that you want to learn more about pulmonary hypertension, just comment below. Thanks for watching. Bye.